The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
I, Mordecai, I'm writing a letter to all the Jews in every province under King Ahasuerus' reign, both near and far, establishing this day, the 14th day of the month of Adar, and the 15th day of Adar, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto us from sorrow to now joy, and from mourning into a good day. But that we should make these days of feasting and of joy, and of sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of us Jews, had devised against us to destroy us, and he casted lots to consume us and destroy us. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that Haman's wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. How does that sound?
In today's episode, we go over Esther chapter 9 and chapter 10, and we reach the triumphant conclusion of the story with the deliverance of the Jewish people. We witness their victory over their enemies and the birth of the joyous festival of Purim, and a celebration of survival and divine favor. And in the end, we also examine the entire book of Esther and talk about the points that stood out to us. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right. Welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay
and Earl Roberts. Hopefully everyone out there had another great week. It's always good to enjoy and relax on the Sabbath. It always brings a level of peace. You know, some people probably listen to this on the week, so hopefully your week is going good. But you get the idea. Like it's always great when it's like now I just long for Friday evenings and Saturdays especially, where I could just do nothing and be happy.
It's about to be a crazy analogy, but I want you to stick. When I was learning about when I was in Vegas, we went to the Mob Museum, right? So it's a museum for mobsters.
I see the craziness already. Keep going.
No, like it's a bad analogy. I mean, it's a good analogy, but it's not a good story to be telling. Anyway, so the mafia, they used to study the law a lot, like the law of the land. Mm-hmm. They understood jurisdiction well. So a lot of times they would commit their crime very close to the border of the state, right? Mm-hmm. And so they could go on a high-speed chase. And once they pass, let's say you leave Nevada, now you in Arizona, the authorities have to stop. Even the FBI could not cross borders, not borders, but state lines, I should say. They could not cross state lines to get you, right? To me, that is the Sabbath to me. The Sabbath is the state line. So all the burdens that I am dealing with, everything that's chasing me all through the week, as soon as I cross that border, It's away now. You see what I'm saying? I'm home free. Like it's like solitude. It's like, and I know that I I had to be eased into that because
Mm-hmm.
in my life, I did like growing up, like you have school, you know what I'm saying? Every day after school is done, you don't really have to worry. That's your state line when the bell rings and school is out,
Mm-hmm.
right? But come Friday, you just have a weekend and not worrying about anything. When you get older, like especially when we went to college, that's when the real responsibility hit. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm responsible for everything. Like my next meal, I'm responsible for, like any payment, a lot of things that I had to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of deadlines. It's a lot of stress that happens in college. That was the first time I end up fully appreciating the Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? And even in college, most like 90% of the time in college, I kept the Sabbath and I was trying to keep the Sabbath. Like it's times when I might be with a friend and they go somewhere and I can't really control the environment and stuff. But when I finally graduated, that was the time when I started to dabble in doing things on Friday night or on Saturday. And I could feel the contrast. I could feel the unrest. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
telling Earl this morning, there's so many things happening in the media and the music world right now. And it's like it's exciting to me. And I woke up this morning unrested because my mind wants to know what happened next. It's like I'm glad that my team in the NBA is out of the playoffs because I don't have nothing that I care about
Sad days.
in basketball right now. But if like think about it like this, right? If it was the championship game that was happening on Friday night,
Oh boy,
I
I'd
would not
be
have rest because I would just
me.
want to know the outcome. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
and
The
so
devil would get me, boy.
I telling you, bro. So like in my in my mid 20s, I tried my best to like condition my mind to cut off everything when the sun when by the time the sun sets on Friday so that I could be at peace on Saturday, you know? And I it's to the point where I do not like when something disturbs that peace on the Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? I need that Sabbath rest, even if it's mental rest, you know?
Man, I just love relaxing on the Sabbath, babe. I love using that, but it's my Sabbath, babe. Don't stress me.
Yeah, it's the Sabbath, dog. Like straight up. Like people has hit me up now, and especially if I know you familiar with the Sabbath, I just be like, I could check that out after Sabbath. You know what
Mm,
I mean? I don't even say, oh, it's my Sabbath or it's the Sabbath. No, I just say, I could check that out after Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? Just so you could have an understanding what type of time I on. You know,
mm-hmm.
that's a big thing too, though. Like letting the people around you know that you operate under a different set of like morals and rules, so that they could. Because people want to respect your religion, bro. Like we don't
Yeah,
give people enough credit sometimes. Like sometimes we think that they're gonna like try to ostracize you or something, but people want to respect you, but you just gotta let them know. You know.
yeah. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. All right. It's crazy. This episode might actually be a short one. Or it might be long. We'll see. But it's we doing Esther 9 and 10. And 10 is only like 3 verses.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have just jumbled that up into to 9 and
They,
just be done with it.
they definitely could have done that. They
They could have.
definitely could have done that, bro.
Oh my. But oh well. As a recap, I don't even know where to start from. But anyway, like in last episode, we talked about we saw how Haman got hanged instead of Mordecai. We saw how Esther finally revealed to King
Artaxerxes, Ahasuerus.
Ahasuerus. That's what I was trying to say. My word, King Ahasuerus. That the only thing she actually wanted after throwing the 2 elaborate feasts and banquets was her life.
Mm-hmm.
And Ahasuerus was like, "What do you mean? Like, who dare try to kill you?" And then she revealed the plot that was said by Haman, and Ahasuerus was fairly angry to say the least.
Yeah.
And then Ahasuerus went out into the courtyard, came back in. Haman at the wrong time fell across the couch or something. And Ahasuerus was like, "Bro, you even trying to rape her too? Like, you even trying to get with my wife now, bro? Like,
In
how
front
dare
of
you?
me? Like, bro,
Like,
come on,
like
dog.
how brazen could you be?"
Hmm.
And we see Ahasuerus ended up on the same spikes that Haman erected to kill Mordecai. Ahasuerus, I mean not Ahasuerus, Mordecai, Haman was impaled on those same spikes or hanged on those same spikes.
Mhm.
But then there was a second dilemma now because, okay, yeah, Haman's dead, woohoo, but there's still this law that says that the Jews are going to be assassinated. So we see Esther went back to King Ahasuerus and was like, hey, if I pleased you, could you somehow reverse this law? But, in the Persian custom, as we hinted out a few times, that once a law is set in stone, there's no reversing it. But what Ahasuerus did, he essentially gave Mordecai his seal, his ring, and say, create a new law that say you guys can essentially fight back and defend yourselves. So we see Mordecai did that and more. Mordecai went the extra mile with his law, but we see as a result, even, and this is something like we could talk about after like a whole recap Esther, right? But we see as a result, even some of the Persians started to worship the God of the Jews. And so that was pretty interesting, and we talked about that at least a little bit last episode. So this brings us to chapter 9 in the book of Esther. So now on the 12th month, that is Adar, the month of Adar, on the 13th day, the time came for the king's command and his decree to be executed. On that day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them. The opposite occurred, in that the Jews themselves were overpowered by those who hated them. The Jews themselves overpowered those who hated them. The Jews gathered in their cities throughout all the province of a king Ahasuerus to lay hands on those who sought their harm. And no one could withstand them because fear of them fell upon all people. All the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and all those doing the king's works who helped the Jews because of the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all provinces. For this man, Mordecai became increasingly prominent. Thus the Jews defeated all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, with the slaughter and destruction, and they did what they pleased with those who hated them.
Mercy. So we can see how the tides completely turn. What month did they say? They say the 12th month on the
Adar.
13th day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the exact edict issued by Haman, because remember he cast a lot to figure out the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think it was like towards the end of the year. So I think probably a year had passed since Haman had even issued this decree. You know what I'm saying? And now they getting ahead of it. Hold on, give me anyway.
It was the first month. Yeah, so the king's scribes were called on the 13th day of the first month, and decree was written according to all that Haman had commanded. So it was about a year.
Right. So did he say the day that it was gonna come into effect?
Yeah. So it was the day that was going to come into effect was the 13th day of the 12th month.
Right. So now, what day we at now? We at at that point, right?
We at the 13th day of the 12th month. Right. Yeah.
So all right. So now on the actual day that it happened, they start to jump the Jews. They basically beat them to it type situation. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Let me backtrack a little bit. Haman was the king's official, right? He was the king's was one of the highest officials, right? Mordecai now has taken his place, has also taken his house, you know what I'm saying? And also is moving up the ranks among the king's officials. So since Mordecai has gotten this position, he has been so exemplary that his fame is known throughout all of the land. So this man is a senior man now. See what I'm saying? Well respected. And now, on the actual day that the decree was issued to kill the Jews, on the day that the enemies of the Jews have been waiting for. And when I say enemies, these people have real enemies, bro. There were people who were excited to kill the Jews, right? They had been waiting for this day. And now it is not going in their favor because the Jews are doing to them what they had planned to do to the Jews. And it's all a free-for-all. And now also the enemy of the Jews, they have a a disadvantage because it's a fair factor there because they know, despite the fact that by law y'all can't kill the Jews, you just got to know a very high-ranking official is a Jew. You see what I'm saying? So this gonna come back to bite y'all in a way. So they scared, and the Jews are emboldened. So all those who wanted to kill the Jews in the first place, they had an extreme disadvantage right now in this war.
Very. So now in verse 6, and in Shushan, the citadel, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. Also in Parshan, Datha, Dalphon, Aspatha, Poratha, Adalia, Aridatha, Parmastha, Arsai, Aradai, and Vajjestha, the 10 sons of Haman, and the son of Hamathada, the enemies of the Jews, they killed, but did not lay a hand on the plunder.
It was just about killing.
No, but here's why that's so important, right? And this is a little fact that a lot of people can miss, right? But this goes ironically all the way back to 1 Samuel, right? So in 1 Samuel 15, that's the story of when Saul really messed up, right? Because remember, who was Haman? He was an Agite.
Oh, wow. I didn't even catch that, bro.
Haman was an Agite, right? And remember, the Amalekite state king at the time was Agag. So Haman is a direct descendant of King Agag. And remember what Saul was supposed to do.
Destroy all Amalekites.
Destroy all, not to plunder. And it was interesting. Go for it.
The initial thing was to destroy. I think we have but a short amount of verses, right? So
exactly.
Right? So all right. So when the Israelites, right, the 12 tribes, when they left Egypt, they were in the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? Now it was time for them to actually go. I think they were on the way to the wilderness actually, and a clan of the Amalekites, basically, they ambushed the Israelites and they fought them from behind. So all of the people that were not leading the charge, which is the people that were probably injured or weaker or women and children, that's who the Amalekites decided to prey on. So they was fighting the Israelites from behind, but this isn't the Israelite army. This is the nation of Israel. All of people, random civilians, are now getting hurt and destroyed. So they ended up going to war when Moses and those, when they actually found out what happened, and they end up fighting the Amalekites. But God told them that the Amalekites would be completely destroyed for this action, like completely destroyed, everybody, right? So now, when you read that, you expect that to happen during Moses' time. It didn't happen during Moses' time. It didn't happen during Joshua's time. We go by hundreds of years later, and Saul, the first king of Israel, is king, and the Lord tells him to destroy the Amalekites. The fullness of time had come. You see what I'm saying? The Amalekites had so much time to repent and to make amends. None of that happened. They just enemies. And Saul decided, well, Samuel told Saul that God said, yo, destroy everybody. Do not plunder, but destroy everybody. You see what I'm saying? Saul and his army, they decide that I ain't destroying everything. You see what I'm saying? There's some nice cows, some nice lambs. The king, oh, that's my trophy. You see what I'm saying? Kept the king, right? And so when Samuel caught wind of it, he was like, yo, Saul, and this is 1 Samuel 15.
1 Samuel 15, yep.
Right. He said, Saul, you kill everyone? He was like, yeah, man, I kill everything, bro. I kill everything. And Samuel was like, so what is this bleating of sheep that I hear? You know
exactly.
You know what I mean? Y'all just come back from the land of the Amalekites. Or you all come back with cattle. Where they come from? And he was like, oh, yeah, so I was saying to kill everybody, but my army, they was like, all right, we could just get some sheep and some cattle just for sacrificing the God, of course. You see what I'm saying? And then that's the way one of the more quotable lines, isn't obedience better than sacrifice, comes from, right? So long story less long, Samuel, he notices that the king is alive, and Samuel, the prophet, kills the king because he wanted to obey God, something that Saul did not do. And I think that was the last straw in Saul's kingdom where the Lord started to turn his back on him. So if we fast forward,
said, I regret making him king. which is wild.
That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And it's so interesting because another time we see where God regret making something happen was during the flood story, where God relented, that he had even created mankind because that is how disobedient and how evil the human race was at the time. Every thought, you know what I'm saying? Every inclination of the heart was evil during that time. It's actually insane to think, you know what I'm saying? And so now if we fast forward back to today's episode, right, we see another descendant of not only the Amalekites, but of the king that was captured.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And so now let me just put a pin there. You might wonder, and I'm not justifying any of this because morality is not my thing to decide, right? But you might wonder, why did what's it called? Did the Jews decide to kill all of Haman's sons? Why they kill all of Haman's sons? The reason being is if they did not kill Haman's sons, his 10 sons, that's 10 problems you have to deal with in the future. You see what I'm saying? Haman's sons will try to avenge their father. And even if they don't, that's a risk that you're not willing to take because you can't prove that they won't. They might be okay with you now. They might be okay with you for 10 years, 20 years, but eventually they might come back to settle the score. And that is part of the reason why we can assume Haman so hated the Jews. Mordecai was one thing, but the fact that my ancestor, y'all captured and killed, and this is my prime opportunity, I am in the position to have all of y'all killed, to repay to do to y'all what y'all was trying to do to me. I have taken them up on that offer. I think that played a big role in Haman's decision to kill all of the Jews. You see, so now we in a very interesting predicament now where the Jews are now able to fulfill the command that God gave them way back during Saul's time, which is to kill and to not plunder. But that was actually
yeah, bro, and it's so interesting why they even make sure to mention that they did not plunder, because in Mordecai's edict, right, Mordecai gave the Jews explicit instructions to plunder. Right, so like he literally told them last chapter, oh yeah, when y'all kill them, plunder all their possessions. And we doing this. But we see for Haman's family, the Jews kill them, and they say, no, we ain't taking nothing. Because we wasn't supposed to take nothing. Think about it, if Saul just done, we wouldn't even have this problem right now.
right. Because to this one, it was truly just about destroying y'all. You see what I'm saying? Like we ain't even trying to gain nothing from this, but our biggest victory, our biggest objective here is to get rid of y'all, because that's something that we should have do from the beginning. And it, like
centuries ago.
And it really has made me wonder, bro, at what point in time will the Amalekites be done, bro? You see what I'm saying? Because it's like, here's the thing. You might have, let's say the population of the Amalekites is 100,000, right? 100,000. You might have 2 Amalekites that live in Greece. You see what I'm saying? But the rest, the rest of the 100,000 live in their land, right? Y'all might have destroyed all of them, but it's 2 stragglers somewhere. You see what I'm saying?
That y'all don't even know about.
That y'all don't even know about. And I wonder if that's a possibility, because we see times where like when you read the first Samuel chapter 15 account, you think that the king was the only surviving person. You know what I'm saying? Unless the king, but they was even supposed to kill women and things during that time, bro.
Yeah, man, they're supposed to kill everybody.
They're supposed to kill everybody, bro. So like you would think that everybody was dealt with. But then when Saul was about to die, Malachite just so happened to be straggling, saying, oh yeah, Saul tell me kill him, XYZ. That's what he tell David. And David killed that one. And you might say, all right, that was the last one. You see what I'm saying? Surely that was the last one. That centuries later.
But the next thing to consider too, like some of these kings was so into marrying their children and stuff, right? So it's like, because we even saw like almost like when the line of Judah and Israel kind of had a weird intermarry period where this one was technically this one cousin or like sister, but you married the next king, like the kings at that time. So you might roll up to the Malachite kingdom and think you kill everyone, but true, when they have a sister who get like they silly daughter and to get married in this kingdom, and they have children. So technically the line Even they going by a different kingdom name, but that's still the line over there. And they got a
That is
next
true.
cousin over here in this kingdom. So they still Amalekites technically by blood, even though they going by, who knows, the Sidonians or something now. Like, even see
That
with the
is.
royal families today, like
Oh yeah.
bunch of, well, now they doing a little bit better, but my word, back in the day, they just not letting some outsiders in the family in the last century.
Real talk. They was keeping the family close.
I would even say the last century, the
Always.
last generation, the last two generations, because even before, like, Queen Elizabeth, like the prince was German or was German royalty at that point, but we know what happened there with World War II. That didn't last well for them. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's interesting though. But I just do want to point out though, sometimes in the Bible you would see they say everyone is destroyed. And you might see them come back later on. It's like, hold on, man, I thought everyone was you know what I mean? So like
mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hyperbolic.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
because let's think about it too, right? Like, I didn't want to say this, but let's just say something happens to any country, because I don't
Yeah.
make it specific. There's so much expatriates of that country in other places. Like, are they truly even destroyed? And that's with
That's
every
true.
country. Yeah, because I was going to say, let's just say it's with every country.
Yeah,
Like,
because how would they track them down for real? Like, you know what I mean? Like
because let's see, how much Bahamians live outside of the Bahamas?
a lot.
I
A
was
lot.
going to the store yesterday and I see someone had a Bahamas flag on their truck, and I was like, "Bro, you in Point Siena?" And I was like, "I
But
ain't Point Siena, but
that's true. Same thing apply. I in Sanford, boy, I was going for a walk one day and I hear someone with a Bahamian accent. You know what I mean? Like we all the way in Sanford, and I know someone else who work at my job who live in Sanford who's a Bahamian. But they even say it's a Bahamian in Alaska, bro. Like just random Snapple Fox people say, yeah, you know it's a Bahamian in Alaska. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
we making it
shoot,
far, bro. Like
exactly." I see what Bahamian was like in the Netherlands. I was like, "Why you there?
all right,
Ain't nothing there, song Bahamian."
ain't nothing there.
Anyway,
So
we sidetracked, but
yeah,
yeah, it just shows like how annihilation is relative.
yeah.
All right. So now, in verse 11, on that day, the number of those who were killed in Shushan, the citadel, was brought to the king. And the king said to Queen Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men in the citadel, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done with the rest of the king's provinces? Now, what is your petition? It shall be granted to you. Or what is your further request? It shall be done."
That's
And
the one. That's the one. Do for more now.
but the king just capitulating at this point, too. He's just like, all right, like,
But the king was trying to get off the kingdom. This a little bit of dirt to that.
eh? In perspective.
Yeah, like in
Perspective is
perspective.
everything.
Yeah, for real.
All right. Then in verse 13, then Esther said, "If it pleases the king, let it be granted to the Jews who are in Shushan to do again tomorrow according to today's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows." Now, is this adding insult to injury?
It is. That's why I'm saying she doing for more at this point, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Because y'all already had y'all had a whole day of slaughtering
yep.
throughout the kingdom, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all avenged yourselves. Ain't no one messing with y'all. Think about it, bro. No one is messing with y'all tomorrow because of what y'all did today.
We
But
gotta
you
be
say,
sure though.
we want an extended period, king. We ain't done with our business. That 500 men take us a little bit longer. 510 people take us a little bit longer than we expected. We ain't get to fully deal with our problem, king, in the capital.
For true, we gotta
We
nip
just
this
need
in the
one
bud.
more day to solidify this, king.
And
Like,
so I wanna say that's like insult to injury, right? But at the same time, I don't know customarily if it was. Because remember when Saul died, they hang him and his sons, they hang their heads up. The Philistines, they hang the heads of Saul and his sons up, I think it was like at the front gate. You see what
mhm.
I'm saying? For people to see. You know what I mean? And I know. I don't think it's right, but like I say, I ain't the moral police. You see what I'm saying? But the man done dead. Now y'all have to go and hang these men up on a 50 cubit gallows for everyone to see. I mean, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy.
That's wild. Do we know what tribe Mordecai was from? Is that said anywhere?
I thought they said Benjamin, but
That's
I read.
even crazier then. I thought it was Benjamin too, right? Because think about it. It wasn't Saul from Benjaminite too.
Oh yeah, he's a bench. Yeah, Saul definitely was a Benjamin.
It's like the story come full circle, bro.
It do though, like little gems that you ain't really, you know what I mean? You ain't really get put together that easily, but
Like
it did.
Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin and he failed. Centuries later, Mordecai from the tribe of Benjamin, and boy, did they succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And they ain't settling for nothing from than total victory, bro. No, we making sure we are done with this problem. They think they Joshua. No, we making sure we done.
Oh, that's crazy, bro. I trying to see for a fact if it was Benjamin, but sometimes, but like when you on a spot like this,
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Trying to
just
pinpoint it, right?
yeah, it just be kind of hard. You know what I mean?
I can let you look for it while I guess keep reading. In verse 14, so the king commanded this to be done, and a decree was issued in Shushan, and they hanged is Benjamin?
Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. And they hanged the 10 sons. And the Jews who were in Shushan gathered together again on the 14th day of the month of Adar and killed 300 men in Shushan, but they did not lay a hand on the plunder. Mm. The
More,
remain, mm?
even more of them.
Yeah. And in verse, oh, that's the it's just be wild amount of people just to get slaughtered in a day, bro.
Boy,
That's just crazy. The remainder of the Jews in the king's provinces gathered together and protected their lives, had rest from their enemies and killed 75,000 of their enemies, but did not lay a hand on the plunder. This
oh
was the
yeah,
13th day of the month of Adar, and the 14th day of the month. And on the 14th day of the month, they rested and made a day of feasting and gladness.
that's crazy. And you know what's so funny with that though? Why Akan couldn't do that? You remember Akan?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, like during when the Israelites was finally making it to the like the promised land and stuff like that, like when they was finally on their way out, right? They went to war and they were told not to plunder anything.
Yep. My boy
This
take the
man,
rope.
yeah, this man named Akan. This during Joshua time for context, right? He
Mm-hmm.
slickly take one robe. I think he might have taken some silver too, and he buried it in his tent. Next thing you know, they go on to battle AI. AI is such a small army that they say, all right, we need to bring like a part of our army, and they get destroyed by AI, right? And they're like, hold on, what's going on? That don't make no sense. Like, God, you just tell us come to the promised land. You tell us to rid the land of everybody, and now we losing. And so then they realize, hold on, somebody disobeyed God. God, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they narrow it down to Akan, and Akan was like, man, I ain't gonna lie, but like we was killing them, we was doing our thing, and then I see this Babylonian robe, man, I couldn't deny it. You know what I mean? Like, so he ended up taking the robe. You see what I'm saying? Bringing curses on to the whole Israelite clan, and as a result, he was killed or whatever. And then they won the Battle of Ai. So a lot of parallels to the to the early Israelites, but here we see they have the self control. Like you could say they learned from their mistakes, or their motive could have been different, or they just was being obedient to God. But they chose not to plunder, even though by law they was right to plunder. You know what I mean? And the reason I say that is because you killed 75,000 plus people.
That's a lot of stuff you could take, like.
That's a lot of stuff you could take, bro. And that's a lot of people who have to be involved to kill all them people. You see what I'm saying? So it's like all of y'all on one accord. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's interesting. The book of Esther is so interesting. Okay, so now let's keep going in verse 18. But the Jews who were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day, as well as the 14th day, and on the 15th day of the month they rested. They made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Jews of the villages who dwelt in the unwalled towns celebrated the 14th day of the month of Adar with gladness and feasting as a holiday for sending presents to one another. Huh. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters to all the Jews near and far who were in all the province of King Ahasuerus to establish among them that they should celebrate yearly the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar as the days on which Jews had rest from their enemies, as the month which had turned from sorrow to joy for them, and from mourning to a holiday. that they should make them days of feasting and joy and send presents to one another and gifts to the poor. The Jews accepted the custom which had begun as Mordecai had written to them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agite, the enemy of the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to annihilate them and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king and he commanded by letter that the wicked plot which Haman had devised against the Jews should return on his own head, and that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows. So they called these days Purim, after the name Pur. Therefore, because of all the words of his letter, what they had seen concerning the matter, and what had happened to them, the Jews established and imposed it upon themselves and their descendants and all who would join them, that without fail they should celebrate these 2 days every year according to the written instructions and according to the prescribed time, that the days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and these days of Purim should not fail to be observed among the Jews, and that the memory of them should not perish among the descendants. Then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, with Mordecai the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm the second letter about Purim. And Mordecai sent letters to all the Jews to 127 provinces of the king of Ahasuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim at their appointed time, as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had prescribed for them, and had decreed for themselves and their descendants concerning matters of fasting and lamenting. So the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it is written in the book. And then chapter 10, and King Ahasuerus imposed a tribute on the land and on the islands of the sea. Now all the acts of his power and his might, and the account of his greatness, of the greatness of Mordecai, to which the king advanced him, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of the Medes and Persia, Media and Persia? But Mordecai the Jew was second to King Ahasuerus, and was great among the Jews, and well received by a multitude of his brethren, seeking the good of his people and seeking peace to all his countrymen.
Oh, I want to go on a limb and say the chronicles of kings of Media and Persia didn't make it in the Bible. Just going out on a limb here.
Oh, and why would it make it in the Bible?
No, I'm just kidding. But one thing that kind of stuck out to me, not really that relevant, but Mordecai the Benjamite is described as Mordecai the Jew. And it's funny because it's like Benjamin and Judah made the southern kingdom. You know what I mean? And
Benjamins don't get that much shine though.
None, bro. Like you just considered a Jew. You see what I'm saying? And that's how they do it. It's like Trinidad and Tobago. You see what I'm saying? It's like Trinity. Like people outsiders, they try to roll all that up. You know what I'm saying? And I met someone from Tobago. I don't want to butcher how they say it. Tobagonian, I think.
I think it was like anyway, I don't want to say because now I feel like I could be in a weird position.
If anyone listening from there, forgive me. You see what I'm saying?
But yeah, like one of my graph teachers was from Tobago, Miss Amos. And when she said,
I remember.
Yeah, because I remember she said she was like from Tobago. I was like, so Trinidad?
But I ain't the worst one, bro. I tell this girl I was from the Bahamas. She say, so you Jamaican? Ain't cool. Different story for a different time, though. But I know you get. But I give her 2 + 2. I know what she end up with, 7 or something.
Yeah, but she going far.
Yeah, she going far. But yeah, so like, it's just interesting, because like in the back of my mind, Jew just explicitly means of Judah. You know what I'm saying? And it's more so of Judah, the nation, not the tribe. You see what I'm saying? Because the nation consisted of Judah and Benjamin. But there were also other people from other parts of Israel that lived in the southern kingdom. You see what I'm saying? But now it's all considered Jew, from a biblical standpoint and just in general, And the inverse is true now, though. Like, so if we believe that, all of the people from the southern kingdom, they went back and they occupied all of Israel. You see what I'm saying? And it was only them, right? Like we still call that Israel. You see what I'm saying? So when we say I know it get kind of funny because when we say Israel, it's 8 other tribes. You see what I'm saying? That intermarried and became enemies of the Jews that are not
Mhm.
that did not occupy that land in the Bible. You see what I'm saying? But Jews, like the people from the southern tribes, they could still claim Israel because they technically are, no matter what. And they're Jews at the same time, but not everyone that was in those northern 8 tribes could be Jews. You know what I'm saying?
I get you.
Yeah, I know it kind of technical, and forgive me if I wrong in any type of way, but that's just the way I think into it. And I say that because we have a group called the Hebrew Israelites, right? And love to y'all brothers, bro. I don't want no smoke, bro. But I had a friend who was trying to tell me, not even trying to tell me, I was listening to one of his sermons and he was saying
Wow.
how, bro, y'all gonna laugh, but he was saying how like they was calling the 12 tribes. And they was like Benjamin or the so-called Jamaican man. And they was like, real talk. And they was like Issachar or the so-called Haitian man. Like, and they really was calling out black nations on the western side of the world. You see what I'm saying? Like Haiti, Jamaica, America, this and that.
Mhm.
Like they was calling out a bunch of like places where like a high population of black people. And they was saying they was attributing them to the 12 tribes. You see what I'm saying? And I really start to stop and think like, bro, if someone wanted to back in to everybody that rolls up to all of these tribes, bro, but where do you begin and how do you ever prove it if the Northern Kingdom had been so intermarried? And then see,
Mhm.
it would have been different if even among the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom, if they never had became like good on good terms again. But if they stayed a independent nation, like 2 independent nations type situation, but that Northern Kingdom, bro, it's like it's Samaritans and all of the other people that was in the land, and they really intermarried, and a lot of that is why like Jews, like the Southern Kingdom, didn't really want to associate with them as much because like y'all had been defiled and X Y Z, and it's like, bro, if biblically we can't say who's from Naphtali, bro. You see what I'm saying? Like who is the descendant of that? Like today, like we can't
No chance.
identify that. Like how we could say, wait, all Bahamians is, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like, bro, it don't work like that. Or all Jamaicans is from this tribe. You know what I
Who from
mean? Like
this
that.
tribe of Zebulun?
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like who's Reuben? You know what I'm saying? Like, and how do we do anyway? I ain't trying to dogpile on them, but it was interesting just to see the Jew. You catch what I'm saying? Because I think it was
Mhm.
like during this time frame where they started to like use that word like a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like all through the New Testament, you're gonna see the word, but um, for the most part, up in the Old Testament before exile, I don't think I ever heard the term Jew being used. Like when we were reading the Book of Kings and Chronicles. Well, we didn't get to Chronicles yet, but when we were in Kings, I didn't see. I don't think I've seen that word. You know what I'm saying? But it's a pretty common word that we're gonna use moving forward. But
Um,
yeah,
so here's a random question, right? This war that the Jews went on, do you think God approved or commanded this war? Because it's interesting the book of Esther how we don't get the like direct commands, right?
yeah.
So what's your thoughts?
I think it's room for speculation, and I can't say definitively on either side. But I'll tell you what I think. I do think that he did command the war, and I do think this was a way of reconciling what should have been done before. So
Mhm.
not every time the Jews have a enemy do they kill. We just read Ezra Nehemiah. They had a good much enemies. And I don't recall any of them enemies getting killed. I remember that Nehemiah was saying, bro, if you all want a war, y'all can get a war. And as a matter of fact, we are armed while working. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And we will kill y'all. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But they didn't kill. And God didn't tell them, hey, go out and wage war with them, just destroy them. You see what I'm saying? It didn't happen. But now we see where they are killing. You see what I'm saying? Where they are going to war, you know? And we see who's spearheading this. Mordecai, the righteous man. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
like just based on context clues, I believe that he was well within his right from a godly blessing. You see what I'm saying? To go out and do this. And also, that mainly could have been because had y'all not do this, the decree is still issued for y'all to get killed, and y'all will get killed. You see what I'm saying? So it's really like a kill or be killed, and it goes down to the self-defense dialogue that we had during Nehemiah. You see what I'm saying? It's like if somebody coming to kill you and you know they coming to kill you, are you just gonna like not defend yourself? It's different when we saying you being martyred for your beliefs. That's a completely different scenario because it's basically renounce God and live, or keep claiming the things of God and we will kill you. That's a completely different scenario, But we've seen all through the Bible where people defend themselves. David is the prime example of that. David always defend himself. You see what I'm saying? David killed his tens of thousands type of situation just in the stake of war for the securement of God's people. And I think this situation is no different. Now, the numbers that we see, it might seem excessive for 75,000 people. That's a lot of people, but that's a full-on war, bro. But we don't know to what extent we don't know how many people hated the Jews. Consider this. When we read the book of 2 Kings, the Jews, the southern and the northern kingdom, bro, they had multiple enemies, bro. You see what I'm saying? They had the Babylonians, right? We see the Sidonians every now and then. We also see the Babylonian cousins, the Assyrians. We see the Syrians. You see what I'm saying? Like, we seeing a bunch of people who just don't like the Jews, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and so now all of them under one dominion under the Medes and Persians. We don't know if these people was ever waiting for an opportunity to settle the score. Because think about it like this, right? If any of them nations planning a revolt, and we could get rid of our enemies one by one, piece by piece, we get the Jews out of the way. You see what I'm saying? Now we can really just focus on the Persians and stuff like that. I think they would take advantage of that. So, in conclusion, I do think that it was justified and it was probably commanded by God to do so.
I think, like, given the context of the book, like, God provided a way of deliverance for his people. I do believe Mordecai added some sauce on top. That's my own personal speculation, right? Because the reason why it's also hinted towards too, because the people were directed to plunder, but in knowing the history, they didn't plunder. So I could see like Mordecai being like, yeah, we need to do this, but I could be like, but y'all can plan, we can take all the possessions. People saying, okay, cool. Like, no, we can defend ourselves and do what we have to do, but to take the extra step that you just say, we ain't gonna do that, right? So I believe it was mixed. I mean, because like the whole theme of Esther right now, I wouldn't say the whole theme, right? But it's like God working behind the scenes, right? But we still see a lot of moral ambiguity in Esther. There's a lot of moral ambiguity. Like arguably the book promotes partying and drinking. The book, I mean, think about it. The book is ending in the reverse of how it started, but almost the same way. The book started with a year-long banquet with an extra week on top of that, right? And we end in the book arguably with another feast. And think about it, Purim is the only feast and holiday in the Bible that is not given by God.
Yeah.
Now, people could argue, did God give the holiday given the whole theme of the book? We literally do not know.
But I inclined to say God didn't give the holiday, but that would leave room to say God didn't give the command because the reason.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like the same logic could be applied in both cases, right? So it's like the whole theme of the book is we don't get the direct commands of God in this book. It literally leaves the speculation, did God say do this, or is this just happening? We see God working in between the time. God might have given them, typically what we see God giving instructions to Moses where you tell the people could do this. That part of it is missing, right? So God may have directed, but that's why I make sure to say this. The only time we see God did not directly give the holiday. Jews still keep it as a holiday to this day. It's hard to believe that it wasn't given by God and is so long standing, just like all of the other holidays. But again, we don't have the context, but the holiday is given in the word of God.
Yeah, see, but I don't think it's that hard to believe that it's so long standing, only because it's like Independence Day, right? You catch what I'm saying? So it's so the Passover was a form of independence. right? We got freed from the Egyptians, right? Through by the grace of God. This time we freed in a different way. We still ain't like fully free because we still, under Persian rule. But we have the queen is a Jew. The second in command is a Jew. We practically free. I ain't gonna lie. Like ain't nobody could be writing stuff that ain't in our interest or that's against our interests. You see what I'm saying? And this was and the icing on the cake was by destroying our enemies and our enemies being afraid. Our enemies couldn't even fight back for real because they were scared. And then our enemies also converted to Judaism. You see what I'm saying? So it's like this moment in time, I could see a memorial, be a long-standing memorial being created after that, you know. And it is true. We don't see a direct command from God because when God has commanded his holy days, aka Sabbaths, they had meaning outside of the actual event. They had significant meaning. So it's funny, the Passover, right? We saw that the angel of death passed over everything that was covered by the blood of the lamb, right? In the same way, his blood shall set us free. You see what I'm saying? It's by his stripes that we are healed. You see what I'm saying? It's the same. That symbolized Jesus being the Lamb of God slain for the sins of the world later on in life. So it was deep, deep symbology. This was a single entendre. Like if I was talking rap or literature or what's it called, poetry, this is a single entendre. It's just one event that was significant. You see what I'm saying? Like you could say a line and it's a good line, or you could say a line that have two meanings and both of them are good. You see, catch what I'm saying? So it's like the things that God implemented were multi-layered, right? And we see how Jesus fulfilled a lot of the things that God told them to do initially. But at the end of the day, it's like considering Mordecai's character, bro. And we just was off mic. We was talking about how like you can't swear for no one, not even people in the Bible. You see what I'm saying? The only person I really could remember God like swearing on behalf of was Job. Have you considered my servant Job? Like he put his neck out for Job. Not saying that it hasn't happened since then, but it's documented there, right? But I use Mordecai's character as a barometer to see if we establish him as a just man, I think it's very likely that the things that he does is just. Now there is room for you to be emotional and I ain't gonna say vengeance, but it's like
a certain level of pride that we all have.
Right, like that your emotions get the best of you and it plays a role in your decision making. You see what I'm saying? I believe that has happened too though. Like I trying to remember someone who started killing. Oh, it was a king. It was a king in his name started with J, but a lot of kings' names start with J. In the Old Testament, you remember? I mean, in the book of Second Kings, I think his name might have been Jehu. If that was a good king, remember he'd get all the people of Baal in one place, and then he killed all of them. You see what I'm saying? And he was like, by killing all of the descendants of Ahab and Ahab.
Yep.
Ahab and stuff like that. Like
I can't remember that one specifically, but I remember the story.
Yeah. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but remember we was talking about that. We was like, bro, this man, he was justified by God to kill. You see what I'm saying? But he started going crit. No. It might not even been him. It might have been Jeroboam, bro. It might have been Jeroboam I was thinking about, because remember at the beginning,
Jeroboam was evil.
God told Jeroboam that he was going to be king. You see what I'm saying? Then he just gone on a rampage, bro. You see what I'm saying? He like, oh, I killing you. Oh, and I moving everybody out. You see what I'm saying? I think Jeroboam is a better example. Jeroboam, the Lord instructed him to move a certain way. He fulfilled that plus more of his own doing, and you could see it by the fruits. We could see that he ended up making a temple for his new God and his new religion. You see what I'm saying? And he caused the entire northern kingdom to apostatize. One thing that is not attributed to Mordecai in this story is I try not to use the term bad luck, but like curses attributed to what he has done. You see what I'm saying? I think that it would be likely to see the fruits if he had disobeyed God. So we see that he went on, he issued this decree. They did a lot, right? We could argue if it was right or wrong, right? But then in the last chapter, they establish his advancement and
Mm-hmm.
how he continued to advance. You see what I'm saying? And all of the acts and the power of his might and his greatness. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it leads me to believe that he was operating from sound mind and righteousness, but definitely open for interpretation. I can't say definitively that I right. You know.
Yeah, it's like the clues there about his moral character, like that part you ain't questioning. But again, it's the part that we all have a humanness to each of us.
Yeah.
None of us is perfect, and it's just interesting that I say do this, but everyone know this part was a little bit excessive, so we ain't no one actually do it.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
all right, killing them is just good enough, bro. We don't gotta plunder.
But it does leave room to assume though that maybe all of the enemies that was literally in the lands were all Amalekites. It's possible because of the amount of time that had passed, and you see
Mm-hmm.
these men having 10 sons of time. You see, so when you see that day in plunder, yeah, you see that day in plunder, you can assume, oh, well, maybe it was all Amalekites. Let me give you an example. When we see Ezra Nehemiah, right? They keep saying the enemies. But then there might be one or two texts that say, oh, these Samaritans. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like for the rest of the time, it's saying the enemy, and then they might name the Arab or the XYZ, this and that. But you can see that, oh, a lot of these were Northern Kingdom, people from the Northern Kingdom, and that's why they so adamant on stopping you from building this wall or from building this temple and stuff like that, because they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they should be able to pitch in. They should be a part of this, and you're all excluding them. That's why they have such a vendetta. You know, why do out of all of the provinces from Ethiopia to India, why do these 75,000 plus people have a vendetta with the Jews? Is it because that they just don't like them, or is it history there? I willing to bet it's more than likely history, but because they don't identify who these people are, it's only so much you could speculate, you know. But at the end of the day, it's a blessing that we see um the Lord, his people, you know what I'm saying, prevailing in the face of adversity, because they ain't do nothing. But Haman really just caused this just off air, bro, just because Mordecai ain't wanted to worship him. Like this, this,
That's the
this was
truth,
this could have been avoided, bro. Like all us could have stayed alive, bro. Like,
man. But it just shows so much people just got the hatred in their heart that just built up. Because this was again to your point, unprovoked. If Haman just hadn't gone business as usual, he would have still been alive. His sons would have still been alive. Arguably, Mordecai would have still been like by the God gate. He wouldn't even
right.
been rise to such prominence. I mean, Grant, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so much. It's interesting how things like developed. But God knew what was happening. Like God's like, all right, I already see what's in Haman's heart. Let me start setting up things for like to be in place. So when this does come to fruition, I already have a plan in place. Let me put it in him in the Mordecai head that Esther needs Hadassah at the time needs to apply for this queen position. It
Mhm.
opening, we need to get in there. Might have had a little bit of pushback. Nope, you're doing this. Don't tell no one use a judo until I tell you to tell them, right?
Right.
But we see God just start setting things up because he knew what was coming. He knew what was coming. Like, we was kind of talking ahead of like pre-pod, right, about different stuff. But it's like, God has set things up because he knows what's already about to take place in the future. We don't know, but we just know things seem to be working out and going in the right direction, but we don't even know why things are aligning this way because God already say, bro, I need y'all to be at this point because when X, Y, and Z kick off, you already know your ABCs. You know what I'm saying? You ain't at a point where you have to scramble. And that's how God work with everything, right? Because think about it, bro, the minute Adam and Eve eat the fruit, God already had a plan of redemption that was already taking effect. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like, and that's just so interesting how God works. Like God's like, yeah, okay, this might happen or this probably gonna happen. Let me already have a plan in place. Like from the very creation of from human species, he had a plan. Like, all right, I can come through the human species and save you all from your sins from
Mhm.
the onset of time, bro. Like that's just the God we serve, man. That's just the God we serve. So again, it might be it's a bunch of moral questions about that stuff. We don't see God. actually giving commands in the entire book. But what we do see is the evidences of God working behind the scenes. We do see the evidences of God working in Mordecai's life being exalted. We do see the evidence of God working in Esther's life. But what we also do see is human beings being human beings.
Mm.
We could judge the book of Esther all day long, but I'll tell you this, Earl Roberts ain't a saint. You know what I'm saying? God works through me, but God still works through all of my sins and my baggage that I bring to the table too. You know what I'm saying? Like some people might look at me on Tuesday and be like, bro, is this guy even a Christian? But they might look at me on Monday through Wednesday and be like, yeah, bro, this guy says something different about this guy. And that's what and to me, it's still the beauty of the book of Esther. Like we see humans being humans, but we see what God actually has to work with. And I think in a lot of the other Bible stories, narratives, since we see God's direct influence, that part is missed. Right? Because we say, oh yeah, God tell them to do this and they're just being stubborn, right? But in this one, we seeing God having to work through people being people. Like it ain't no direct, oh, God said this, oh, but them did this. No, it's like, no, this is the story. And you get to see God working, and you're like, that's, hey, I'm what most people get talked up to. Oh, that's a lovely coincidence. No, we don't serve a God of coincidence. We serve a God of action and law and order. You know what I'm saying? That's the God we serve. We don't serve a God of happen chance. You know what I'm saying? And in the book of Esther, nothing happened by happen chance. Oh, Esther didn't just become queen by luck. Mordecai didn't discover that plot by luck. You know what I'm saying? God had everyone where they needed to be at the right time. So when the plan was ready, when Mordecai said, maybe God put you in this position for a time like this. And that's the story. Like God knows where we need to be when we need to be it, and it's just up to us to actually follow and act.
The book of Esther concludes with a triumphant victory over the enemies of the Jews. And on the very day that the Jews were scheduled to be attacked and destroyed, they attacked and destroyed their enemies. And as for Mordecai, he continued to elevate and be advanced in the kingdom, and his greatness is recorded among the history of the Medes and the Persians. This concludes the book of Esther. But join us next time as we tackle the book of Daniel on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your host, Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.